Okay, just a quick update. Since my daughter's getting married later this year and we have the future in-laws coming over this weekend, so my wife insisted that I clean up the chaos that's usually here, so I've actually even cleaned up the floor a bit and be able to present this thing without people falling over all sorts of bits and pieces. So whilst the layout's sort of in a semi-clean state, I think I'll just give you a quick update then. Yeah, hi. This is my first ever attempt at a scratch build of a structure, of a building. Grain elevator is probably about the easiest thing you can try first, because it's basically all white with lots of straight edges, and I was able to get some sheets of styrene very cheaply. So very simply, just cut out some windows, stuck this together. Made the usual errors. It wasn't tall enough, so I had to put in a bit on the bottom, which hopefully I can fill up with some filler and paint over. There's a door here which was in the wrong place, but fill that up. But it's fairly simple tower in the first place. I'll have some railings up here and some air vents as well. At least I've got the doors so that people can get out onto here. I think it's about right, looking at the pictures of the Walthers and the Helgen kits. That's what I've based this on. These are just PVC tubes. Originally I had 4, but I'm going to add another set here to give it a little bit more body. It'll be the main grain elevator of the seaport, with the ships bringing in the grain and then transloading them onto the trains for places like the brewery, the animal feedstock plant, interchange into Europe. I'm thinking of having two loading points. Hold up for a moment. That'll be there. And having two loading points so that two cars can be. Oops. What I didn't mention in the other tape, before the elevator is completed, I'll need to add the conveyor system across the top of the silos, like that. Otherwise the elevator doesn't work, so before anybody gets upset, I will be adding the conveyor system across the top of the silos to bring the grain. Sort of done most of the harbour scene now. Let's get this crane out of the way. You can see I've even put in some, they're called dolphins, or mooring posts, along the edge of the dock here. There's one there behind the warehouse, etc. And there's a ship going by in the background. But won't be able to see much of this once everything's in place, cranes and roads and activity, etc. But a little bit of extra detail I thought I'd put in. Grain elevator's coming along. I'm waiting for some corner pieces, structural profiles, to be able to complete the top conveyor section, and then add the loading points. So I think where it's going to go: warehouses, port, more warehouses. The back scene with the power plant, the newer power plant at the back. Still have to build a northern power line. Back scene, stations now in place. This is where the main road will cross. Van Gelder paper here. Although I'll probably change that factory building down the line somewhat. The steel mill I also still have to build. But there's a little industrial unit scene here coming together. I've done a little bit of ballasting, put in a fence, some parking spots for the industrial unit there, and then at the rear of these industrial buildings, sort of waste area, put some junk in there next to the railway. A road there that I need to complete. There's some more junk there, and behind the big warehouse thing. So I'm putting in some of the detail as we go along. Going over to the rest of the layout. I'll put in the locomotive maintenance facility. The English would call it the TMD. So I've got a 2-track locomotive storage area. I'll have some diesel tanks and cleaning stations, sanding towers are maybe here as well. Got the entrance to the yard now, with the yardmaster's office as it were, and a few tracks. Still need to add about 4 or 5 tracks for the main yard here, with a lead back up to here for building trains. And this is the yard lead for the whole yard. I'll have a couple of tracks here electrified, and I'm starting to put in those as well, so that the main freight electric locomotives can also work here, but just the 2 tracks for an entry and return. The rest of the tracks won't have electrification. And then on around, but the rest I haven't done very much. So what I'm doing is basically working the scenery from the back to the front. I'll do the rear part of the scenery, like the seaport here, up to about halfway or so, to try and get most of the scenery done at the rear, because once the upper level goes in here, then getting access to the rear is a little difficult. So I'm trying to do most of the scenery from back to front, as it were. Anyway, that's where we are at the moment. Okay then, it's been 2.5 weeks since I planted the seeds of the Seafoam, or super trees, or Pteloxys aristata, whatever name you want to go by. Let's see what we've got. I'll have a bit of a close-up here, and I think these little two-leaf thingamies here, all these little 2-leaf, let's see, there's a couple here, here's one, there's one, there's one, there's one there. I think they are the tops of what's going to be those seafoam plants or super trees, I think, anyway. So that's after 2.5 weeks. We've had quite a bit of sunshine and recently quite a bit of rain, so good growing conditions. And we'll have another look in a couple of weeks. So as a little test of the setup, what I have going at the moment are the 2 commuter trains on their commuter loop going between Amsterdam Central and the seaport. So those 2 trains there are automatic controlled, doing their loops and continually going back and forth between Amsterdam and here the seaport station, called the station. Meanwhile, we have a local train or way freight here set up that needs to go to the docks, the seaport, the docks. And that needs to occur whilst, of course, the branch line is being occupied. So we'll need dispatching, and the dispatching will be done automatically. In this particular case, I want to go to the docks with my local. So we'll set it to start. Now the local is programmed to go to the docks, It's actually found a slot, which I'm a bit surprised because but the two commuter trains at the moment are, well, actually the commuter train at the rear is started up. So we'll see what happens now as we follow these two, because they're going to cross each other, and one needs to stop. The local train has stopped at a block exit of the yard, and the commuter train has continued on. The train can't cross a block or a switch that's been occupied by another train. The switches have been freed, so the local train should be able to head off. Yep, here we go. It's heading off to the docks, because we need to drop the auto rack on one of the sidings at the seaport harbour for export. So the local train is on the seaport siding there. Meanwhile, the commuter trains will be able to pass by the goods train as it's stopped here. It'll stop there. There we go. Now I can do switching. There we go. Get it toward the end so the car's coming up. And we can take the local train forward. Let the train forward a little. Now, you would call dispatch. In our case, I don't have to call dispatch. I can automatically select my schedule from the docks, seaport, back to Amsterdam Yard. Seaport back to Amsterdam Yard. Hit the start, and that will then give the train back to the central system, the dispatch as it were, and the local can head off whenever it's got clearance. I just missed the local getting clearance. Between the commuter trains, but you get the idea. Still the same setup. At this level from the yard, the locals can go to 3 destinations. The final destination is Amsterdam Amstel Farmers, which we'll now set up, and we've got our local train here ready to go. So we'll hit start, and when she's got clearance, should be off. So we have clearance, obviously, because the commuter trains are also running, but the locals now got clearance. We just heard a switch being set. Once the signals are in, we'll be able to see the clearance ourselves. Same track as the computers, because there could be another local switching on the siding track. So this is the bypass track, because it's not going to actually doing any switching. So it's going to head round, because it was holding up the station track. The commuter train over here is waiting for its clearance to head through the Amsterdam station, the bypass track on the outside. Block it. Yep, it's got clearance. So it's stopped at the siding here. We can take over the train and do any switching required here onto these spurs